important to begin to help us do things like this. And there is examples of Greenwich IAPT who were offering talking therapies in African language and in patois. But just very quickly, that there was a very key point that therapies weren't really embedded in that conversation of where to seek help, and that how do we ensure that there is somebody that would have offered some guidance to support that group, so or as a family. So it kind of led into really looking at some of the barriers that we face in that organisations, their priorities and the priorities of our community. Do they have the insight into what we really need, and that these stories are familiar to us? So this is the type of support and intervention that we need. And I think the rest of what we said really was a ditto of the other groups.
Thank you, Junie.
Okay, can I go next, Imani?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I'm going to be very quick. The group contained myself and Barbara. So the question was, what triggers mental health? And one of the things we came up with was that sometimes it's looking at Kwame's situation and the fact that his two brothers were so opposing to him, so negative towards him. Sometimes we have unresolved childhood traumas. Sometimes we just grow up assuming that's just that person's character, when it's actually a childhood trauma. Even something as simple as being dyslexic or being autistic. So the other two children will grow up disliking that particular child. And it's not until that child or children behind them, whether they're women or men, before they meet somebody like Sarah, for instance. Kwame could have decided, well, Sarah, why don't we go for family counselling, family therapy? And it's through that therapy, you may find that if the problem's not Sarah, but maybe Kwame has this situation going on and it stems from childhood trauma, unresolved. That's what we felt was, and obviously having childhood trauma, being an adult now, and just like having autism or anything else like that, you know, you go through life and you have stresses in relationships related to your family, your friends, your work colleagues, and your loved ones as well. So that's what we concluded.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this is Kwame.
There were just two people in our group as well. So it was good. We ended up having a really nice 20-minute conversation. And that conversation really kind of centered around COVID and the kind of COVID context, and how the COVID context is bad for people's mental health. But in particular, kind of thinking about the way that people are forced now to live, and that, you know, and I don't know, you've got two teenagers in a flat without a garden, without access to the outside. That is a mentally unhelpful situation for anybody to be in, and we have that kind of times 10, times 20 all over the place. So there's that. The other thing that we were thinking that we spoke about was that we know that some services have gone online, that some organisations are kind of working hard to keep things going, but it's still difficult for people to find, and probably really even more difficult for people to find now than it was before. And so the kind of access to support services at a time when people are going to need them the most is the services are least accessible. And yeah, so I think that was it. It was really to do with kind of what it feels like to be locked down, if you're a teenager, to be locked down in a house, in a flat, without access to the outside, and just also that thing about kind of services being really, really unavailable at the moment, even though they're trying.
Thank you, Michael.
I just wanted to add just the stigma as well around it all, because I was with Michael and we were just talking about the stigma and how people don't really want to relate to it and do kind of shy away. And so we were saying, like, in terms of people being sectioned and things like that, at this moment they're in isolation, then hopefully those professionals that are here today that have said, you know, they work in particular units, whether at King's or wherever they work, whichever hospitals, it's all quite relevant that those people can actually help and give guidance as well for those people that, you know, do get into a crisis and don't know what to do.
Tony, can I just quickly say, with this situation with COVID, I think now most people will know what it feels like to be sectioned, because the way I see it, the whole world has now been sectioned, and in reverse, when you're sectioned, anyone that knows anyone that has been sectioned, when you're brought in, you're injected, you're sectioned. It's the reverse that's now going to be happening. Everybody has now been sectioned, and afterwards they'll bring the vaccine, and everyone will get their injection. So, you know, and what you'll find is that lots of people, they're probably isolated, just going through this isolation by themselves and their mental health.